Tonight, mass graves uncovered as the civilian death toll rises in Ukraine. Also tonight, serious allegations about the conduct of Australian soldiers in East Timor. Home sweet home, the employees sticking with flexible working conditions post-pandemic. And a Grammys tribute to the late Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins as his band wins 3 Grammys. Good evening. Tamara O'Dine with ABC News. There's been widespread condemnation of the shocking scenes uncovered around the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. The US Secretary of State has described the images of violence against civilians as a punch in the guts. Today, Germany called for even tougher sanctions against the Kremlin, including banning Russian gas imports. Russia has rejected allegations of war crimes. Europe correspondent Isabella Higgins reports from Lviv.
The streets of this strategic city are still a battleground. Russia relentless in their mission to take the battered town of Mariupol. But they're struggling to gain control and they're blocking any planned evacuations, keeping tens of thousands of civilians trapped in the fighting. As Moscow turns its focus to the east of the country, the Kyiv region is back under Ukrainian control. The army is picking its way through the armour left behind, staying ready in case Russian troops regroup and come back. Ukraine says it's finding evidence of war crimes in the recaptured town of Bucha, northwest of the capital. Soldiers have found bodies of civilians, some with their hands and feet tied, left in the streets. Multiple sites of mass graves are being uncovered. Tatiana buried her husband's body after finding him in a basement.
I recognised him by his shoes, his trousers. His face was mutilated. He had been tortured and shot in the head.
The Ukrainian government is calling what happened in this town a deliberate massacre.
What did they do? Why were they killed? What did a man who rode a bicycle down the street do? Why did you try to kill ordinary, peaceful people in an ordinary, peaceful city? How is it possible to rape women and kill them in front of their children?
Off the highway west of Kyiv, Ukrainian troops have reached the village of Kalinivka. Locals have been cut off from the outside world for more than a month. Irina Kostyuko's only son was killed by Russian troops. She had to carry his body home in a wheelbarrow and bury him on her own.
I covered the grave with a blanket to protect it from the dogs. He isn't in a coffin. I had to roll him in a carpet.
Despite the horrors, here in Lviv, we are finding people who want to go home to their ruined cities. Some want to join the fight.
I'm not worried about myself. I sent my wife and a daughter to Poland. I fulfilled my mission as a husband and a father. Now it's time to fulfill it as a man.
For weeks, this station has been full of Ukrainians who are desperately trying to escape their country. But military gains around the capital are changing the mood here. And today, these carriages are full of Ukrainians who are returning to their home. They've been warned to stay away, but they're desperate to reclaim their lives. Isabella Higgins, ABC News, Lviv.
Back home now, and Scott Morrison's one-time political rival is standing by his claims that the Prime Minister racially vilified him during a bitter pre-selection battle more than a decade ago. The Prime Minister flatly denies the allegations, describing them as outrageous. But as he prepares to call the election, opinion polls suggest he'll enter the race well behind his opponents. Jane Norman reports from Canberra.
He's gorgeous. This is Mr Albanese, mate.
Yeah, I'm running for Prime Minister.
Anthony Albanese's on a mission to make sure every Australian knows who he is.
You look much nicer in reality than what you do.
Oh, that's good. Did you get that?
Rushing to introduce himself.
Hey, hi, I'm Anthony Albanese.
In a contest increasingly about character.
A compulsive liar.
Scott Morrison's rival in the race to win Liberal pre-selection for the New South Wales seat of Cook has revived 15-year-old allegations, claiming Mr Morrison made racist comments to undermine his campaign.
Well, he's certainly used race in the past on several occasions.
Against you?
Against many other people.
I think I've been very clear. I absolutely reject that as malicious slurs. It is outrageous.
It doesn't stack up with the Scott Morrison I know.
Bruce Baird held the seat at the time, a friend of Mr Morrison's. He says the Prime Minister is not racist.
It's erroneous. The people who are making it are doing it in a way that I think lacks total credibility.
Elections are serious things. It's not a reality show. It's not based on who they like or don't like. They know it's about the economy.
What's that?
If the coalition was hoping for a post-budget bounce, it hasn't been reflected in the latest opinion polls. News polls showing Labor's maintained its large lead over the coalition, 54 to 46% after preferences.
This election campaign, there'll be plenty of opportunity for scrutiny.
Take us forward, Mr Sulu.
The Prime Minister is trying to boil down the campaign to experience in managing the economy, questioning Labor's uncosted commitment to pay for any wage rise for aged care workers awarded by the Fair Work Commission.
Is the coalition actually saying we can't afford to give older Australians decent food and decent care?
The Prime Minister's poised to call the election, but for once, the timing is out of his hands, with a court in New South Wales yet to resolve a fight over Liberal pre-selections in that state. In the meantime, the coalition's clearing the decks, appointing a raft of Liberals to lucrative taxpayer-funded positions in what Labor's already calling a jobs for mates rort. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Secret documents obtained by Four Corners reveal allegations that an Australian SAS soldier brutalised corpses when fighting in East Timor in 1999. The claims in the documents are made by New Zealand Special Forces, who fought alongside the Australians. There was an attempt to prosecute the soldiers, but that failed, and some believe that's had serious consequences for the military to this day. Mark Willisey reports.
It was just days into